When the restaurant manager decided to humiliate a casually dressed customer, he thought he'd stay the king of his tiny kingdom. Little did he know, his guest was someone who would turn his entire life upside down. One mistake, his whole career crumbled in an instant. What happened next? Let's dive in. The restaurant, nestled in the heart of Los Angeles, was a magnet for both locals and tourists. It had a reputation for its eclectic menu and Instagram-worthy decor. Tonight, as always, it was buzzing with energy, clinking glasses, soft jazz humming in the background, and the occasional roar of laughter from a lively group in the corner. Standing near the host stand, like a self-appointed monarch, was Danny, the 34-year-old restaurant manager. With his slicked-back hair, tailored suit, and air of superiority, Danny exuded the confidence of someone who believed he was untouchable. To him, this restaurant wasn't just a workplace. It was his personal kingdom. He took great pride in his ability to size up customers the second they walked through the door. When the next patron stepped in, Danny's radar instantly beeped. The man looked to be around 50, dressed in a simple gray t-shirt, well-worn jeans, and a faded baseball cap. His demeanor was casual, but his stride carried an unmistakable sense of calm. As he surveyed the restaurant, a faint smile flickered across his face when he caught the eye of a young server, Sam, who quickly smiled back. Before the man could take another step, Danny materialized in front of him, blocking his path like a gatekeeper guarding a VIP lounge. "Sorry, we're full," Danny declared, his voice oozing with faux politeness. The man tilted his head slightly as if trying to make sense of the statement. "Full?" he asked, his voice steady but curious. "I see a few open tables." Danny's smile widened, but it was the kind of grin that came with a bite. "Yeah, well, those are reserved. We book weeks in advance here, unless you've got a reservation I missed." His tone carried the unspoken message, "You don't belong here." The man's lips curled into a slight smile, as though he found the whole situation mildly amusing. He opened his mouth to respond, but before he could, a burst of loud laughter erupted from a group in the back. "Yo, Danny," a voice called out. "Come on, man, don't keep us waiting." Danny shot the man a dismissive glance before turning toward the group. "Excuse me," he said curtly, then gestured toward the door. "There's a diner down the block. Might be more your speed." The man didn't argue. With a calm nod, he turned and left, the door swinging shut behind him. Danny returned to the group in the corner, soaking in their approval like a spotlight. Meanwhile, Sam, the young server who had smiled at the man, leaned over to his coworker Mike and whispered, "Yo, did you see that guy? He looked exactly like Keanu Reeves." Mike snorted, shaking his head. "Keanu? Nah, bro, what would he be doing here? And dressed like that? Dude would roll up in a limo, not some busted old Jeep." Sam shrugged, but couldn't shake the odd feeling. "I don't know, man," he muttered. Something about him seemed familiar. Across the room, Danny basked in the attention of his preferred clientele, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing just outside his little kingdom. The next day, the restaurant buzzed with its usual morning rush, cheerful chatter, the clinking of silverware, and Danny barking orders at the staff like a drill sergeant. He was in his element, thriving on his self-appointed role as the restaurant's gatekeeper. The door jingled open, and in stepped the man from the day before, still dressed in the same understated gray t-shirt, jeans, and baseball cap. This time, he wasn't alone. Walking confidently ahead of him was a striking woman in her mid-40s, clad in a sleek black pantsuit, her polished heels clicking against the tiled floor. She carried a leather portfolio tucked under her arm and radiated an air of authority that turned heads as she strode toward the host stand. Danny's smirk faltered for just a second as he took in the pair. But ever the performer, he quickly regained his composure. "Well, well, back so soon," he quipped, his tone dripping with sarcasm. The woman didn't flinch. Her sharp, professional smile stayed firmly in place. "Good morning, my name is Ms. Johnson," she began, her voice calm and steady. "I'm here to discuss the terms of purchasing this establishment." Danny blinked, taken aback by her directness. "Purchasing?" he repeated, letting out a laugh that sounded more nervous than amused. "Lady, this is a restaurant, not a car dealership. What kind of joke is this?" Without a word, Ms. Johnson opened her portfolio, revealing a neatly organized stack of documents. The top page bore the logo of a well-known corporate investment firm. She tapped the folder lightly. "Our company has identified this location as a potential acquisition. I'd appreciate it if you could seat us at a table so we can discuss the details." Danny's eyes darted between Ms. Johnson and the man behind her, who had remained silent, standing just inside the doorway with his hands casually tucked into his pockets. He looked comfortable, too comfortable, considering Danny still thought of him as some random nobody. Danny plastered on a grin. "Oh, I see what's happening here. All right, follow me." He led them through the restaurant, deliberately weaving between tables to the worst spot in the house, a cramped, wobbly table next to the swinging kitchen doors. The loud clatter of pots and pans and the occasional waft of burnt food made the space nearly unbearable. "This should do," Danny said with mock enthusiasm, gesturing grandly. Ms. Johnson took the seat without hesitation, unbothered by the surroundings. The man, however, hesitated just a moment, then settled into the chair across from her. He picked up the menu and began flipping through it silently, as if he were just another diner. Danny stood nearby, watching them with an expression that was equal parts confusion and annoyance. The waitstaff whispered among themselves, casting furtive glances at the duo. "Dude," one server murmured to another, "I swear that's Keanu Reeves. Like, it has to be him." "Nah, man," his coworker replied. "Why would Keanu be in this place? Besides, if it were him, he wouldn't sit next to the kitchen. This guy's just a wannabe." Back at the table, Ms. Johnson was busy scribbling notes in her leather-bound journal. The man stayed quiet, his attention seemingly fixed on the menu. Danny, irritated by their lack of engagement, finally approached the table again. "You know," he said, his voice taking on a condescending edge, "if you don't like the table, there's always another restaurant down the block. We prioritize our regulars here, not folks who show up trying to turn this place into their personal circus." It was then that the man finally spoke. He lowered the menu, revealing a calm but piercing gaze. "I thought good service was the foundation of a successful business," he said evenly, his voice soft yet firm. Danny scoffed, crossing his arms. "Good service? That's rich, coming from a guy who dragged in his lawyer to talk about buying a place no one even wants." He gestured toward Ms. Johnson, his disdain clear. Before the man could respond, a subtle flash of light caught Danny's attention. At a nearby table, one of the diners had their phone raised, recording the entire exchange. Danny scowled, but he didn't say anything. He figured no one would care enough to watch some random clip. Unbeknownst to him, the video was already being uploaded to social media with a caption, "Rude restaurant manager versus a mystery man who might be Keanu Reeves?" Within minutes, it began gaining traction. Back in the restaurant, the tension hung thick in the air as Danny stormed off, muttering under his breath, while Ms. Johnson continued jotting down notes. The man leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable, as the faint sound of a phone notification buzzed in the background. Something was definitely brewing, and it wasn't the coffee. The following morning, the restaurant was anything but its usual polished self. Staff buzzed around in a panic, their chatter a mix of confusion and whispers of the night's events. Phones rang incessantly, not for reservations, but with reporters and curious callers demanding answers. The viral video had spread like wildfire. News outlets plastered headlines everywhere. Restaurant manager disrespects Keanu Reeves, instant karma ensues. A-list star, humiliated at local eatery, watch the shocking footage. Millions of views, countless retweets, and a flood of online comments transformed the restaurant into ground zero for public outrage. Everyone had an opinion, and none of them were good for Danny. By mid-morning, a sleek black SUV pulled up to the curb. Out stepped Mr. Harris, the restaurant's owner, a tall, silver-haired man in his late 50s with a no-nonsense demeanor. Dressed in a sharp navy suit, he stormed into the restaurant, his face flushed with barely contained fury. "Where's Danny?" he barked. Danny, who had been nervously hovering near the bar, froze like a deer in headlights. "Mr. Harris, I can explain." Harris cut him off with a glare sharp enough to slice steel. "Explain? Explain how you managed to insult one of the most beloved actors on the planet? On camera?" Danny stammered, his voice cracking under pressure. "It was a misunderstanding. I mean, how was I supposed to know it was him? He didn't even look." "Stop," Harris snapped, holding up a hand. "You're telling me you didn't recognize one of the most recognizable faces in Hollywood? That's your excuse?" Danny's face turned red. "It's not my fault he was dressed like some I mean, he didn't look important. Not important, Harris's voice boomed, drawing the attention of every staff member within earshot. The man could have been dressed in a potato sack, and it wouldn't excuse your behavior. You've humiliated this restaurant and destroyed its reputation. People aren't calling for reservations anymore, Danny. They're calling to cancel them. Danny's confidence crumbled like a house of cards. But I can fix this, he pleaded. It was a system error, really. Maybe we could... You're fired, Harris said coldly, his tone leaving no room for negotiation. Danny's jaw dropped. Fired? You can't be serious. Serious? Harris shot back, his eyes narrowing. The only thing I'm not serious about is letting you stay here another minute. Pack your things and go. Danny, defeated, slinked toward the back office, muttering bitterly under his breath. Later that afternoon, the restaurant's front door swung open once again, but this time, it wasn't a disgruntled customer or an angry reporter. Keanu Reeves walked in, the same quiet confidence surrounding him, flanked by Ms. Johnson. Unlike before, there was no hesitation. The staff, now fully aware of who he was, froze mid-task, their jaws practically hitting the floor. Cameras flashed outside as a crowd of reporters jostled for a better view. Ms. Johnson addressed the staff with a brief but polite nod. Let's clear this area for a press conference. Mr. Reeves has an announcement to make. Within minutes, the restaurant had transformed. Chairs and tables were rearranged to create a makeshift podium. Reporters filed in, their microphones and cameras trained on the man of the hour. Keanu stepped forward, his demeanor calm but purposeful. His voice, as familiar and grounding as his on-screen presence, filled the room. Thank you all for coming, he began. This restaurant, like many places, has been a space where people come together. Friends, families, strangers. But last night's events highlighted an issue that's bigger than just one person or one business. He glanced around, his gaze settling on the employees watching from the sidelines. Everyone deserves to be treated with dignity and respect, no matter who they are or what they look like. That's why I'm proud to announce that this restaurant will be part of a new initiative. Ms. Johnson stepped up, handing him a folder. Keanu held it up. This space will become part of a charitable program aimed at creating inclusive dining experiences. No one will be turned away based on their appearance or financial status. It's about building community, not tearing it down. The room erupted into applause. Cameras clicked furiously as Keanu and Ms. Johnson fielded questions about the project. Outside, Danny watched from the shadows of a nearby alley, his eyes locked on the scene unfolding inside. His bitterness simmered as he saw the man he had so carelessly dismissed being celebrated like a hero. He replayed the words Keanu had spoken to him just days before. I thought good service was the foundation of a successful business. Danny clenched his fists, his mind spinning with regret. The lesson was painfully clear, but for him, it had come far too late. His kingdom had crumbled, and he was left with nothing but the memory of his failure. As the crowd cheered and cameras captured the beginning of a new chapter for the restaurant, Danny turned and walked away, fading into the city streets like a forgotten shadow. How would you have handled the situation if you were in Danny's shoes? Do you think he deserved what happened, or was it an honest mistake? Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you or someone you know ever faced a similar experience? Let us know below. Don't forget to like and share this story if it resonated with you. This story was created to shine a light on the importance of respect, kindness, and inclusivity in our daily lives. It's a reminder that every action has a ripple effect, and small acts of decency can make the world a better place. Your opinion matters, and your voice can help inspire change. Let's make the world a little kinder, one story at a time.